Si tu savais à quel point j'ai de l'affection pour toi, à qui tu n'aurais pas dû me faire ça.
So I have just recently been in touch with several middle schoolers whom are close to me, and I wanted to talk a little bit about talking to kids. I come from a family that talks a great deal. You've probably seen even interviews that I've done with different members of my family here on YouTube. And the fact that I have so many videos of me talking, this is a way that my family has always interacted, but I realize that not every family does that. And so I wanted to give some very specific advice to you as a caregiver of a middle school aged child, as I'm assuming they're not watching these videos. But I have a cousin who's entering 7th grade, another who's entering 8th grade. I have a good friend here in Delhi who just sent her daughter off to boarding school to start the 9th grade, and these are very key ages. And someone was fortunate enough, I should say privileged enough to be able to send this child to a really wonderful educational environment. And this is a difficult age for people at this time. And as I was listening to my friend talk about the transition and how things had really been settled with her daughter, I was really happy. And also listening to my little cousin who's going into the 7th grade, and I think of all the things that I would want to tell them, but the first thing that I can tell you as a caregiver is that listen to them. Ask them how it's going, what they're looking forward to. Talk to them about school, but more so, listen to them. It has been immensely healing for my family to talk about our lives to each other. So, in addition to helping my little cousin and every little child, every middle school child will have anxieties about school, and no amount of back-to-school sales will settle those anxieties. And so as parents and as caregivers, we have to do significantly more than just provide. Of course, this goes for any kind of relationship. You have to do more than just sort of provide for each other, but you really have to provide care. And care in the form of really getting to know a person's core feelings and core values. And so listening to a child is really getting them to establish their core values and their core senses of who they're becoming. And so to just hear how my little cousin, strategizes about how to deal with their math teacher who doesn't like her, who's also her homeroom teacher. But also this is a person who's very young. But as many of these girls do, they start to look like women. And I think it's one of the greatest injustices that we do to our young people is to shy away from talking about sexuality. It's obvious. They're starting to look like adults. And for girls, it's quite clear. I have known the male species as a male since I can remember. And it was quite clear by 5th grade that that what we were teaching boys about manhood greatly conflicted with what we were teaching girls about womanhood. And because there was this disparity in power between boys and girls and men and women, there is still, teenage pregnancy where the girl is held responsible, accountable. There's still rape and sexual coercion rape and sexual coercion are almost, by definition, crimes that men perpetrate against women. If you look at that movie Obsessed with Beyonce, everywhere, I guess you have to act to be able to act better. So we'll give her some time on that. But the movie was about a man who was sexually harassed and even date raped, including with the date rape drug. But never was the word sexual abuse, harassment directed towards him as the male protagonist. It was always the potential of him being misread. And in fact, everyone, including his own wife, believed that he misread. That he must have done something. That he must have agitated, instigated this sexual abuse, sexual harassment. The guy was raped. and abused at work. And so these are the lessons that we already start to teach kids at a very young age. They see this. We see this. And unless you can find creative ways to listen to children to figure out how they're starting to see their identities, one of those strongest identities that is being contended for them is gender. Why? Because sex is starting to take over. Their sex, their hormones, it's the nature of puberty. And so what we tend to do quietly is to, on top of what's going on with them sexually, we lay this layer of gender upon this. We see it in our everyday lives. I just spoke last night with a group of British interns here, and despite their, one guy had a degree from Oxford, a degree from Cambridge, and from the potluck, they were supposed to bring some food, and they just said, well, we just told the girls to do it, and the girls did it. And then I said, well, and also I bet since you've come to this party, the guys have probably had a greater bulk of the beer than the women. Yeah, that's also true. Like, these are all gender-appropriate roles that the men could think that they could tell the women to do something because it was involving food and somehow considered domestic. It's their sphere. And the women, the females in their group, and these are all people who are in their early 20s, university graduates or late university students, and they all, sort of fall into these roles. And these are the very roles that I see are really inconsistent with what we teach girls at that age, in the 6th and 7th grade and upwards, versus what we teach boys. We're teaching boys to assert themselves like that, and we're teaching girls that their role is still domestic. I mean, look how clear it is. And look how many marriages in America fail. So when I say that we're talking to kids, we're talking long-term here. Who they are, who they become. And to have these very mature conversations, and I say mature because it takes a level of maturity for you as a caregiver to be able to engage a person that young about identity. Now, I think with racial identity, religious identity, there are some more visible ways that we deal with it. But when it comes to something so fundamental, and even class identity, kids want to talk about it. Kids are gearing up to talk about it. But I think what we have to do is to take a step back from our own anxieties and listen. Let them speak. You don't have to say anything and be concerned that what you're saying is inappropriate for their age. How about just listen to figure out what they know and address them where they are? And that's the advice that I have to give to all of you. As you send your kids along in middle school this year, listen to them more. Show them that they always have someone that they can come to. Not just tell them, but actually take out time and say, this is our listening time. Even if you don't announce it to them as such, they might think it's cheesy and it's corny. Just do it. See, it's another meaning to just do it other than just buy some stuff. But just do it. You know what I mean? Just sit down and say, come here. Sit here. We're going to talk. You're going to talk. And I'm going to listen without judgment. I'm not going to call you out on anything that you need to say. And that's how we can stave off the ill ramifications of skewed sexuality and skewed gender roles at an older age. The sorts of things that continually, people, what's the number one reason for divorce? Money. And money is so gender stratified in this society. Getting money, people's getting money. If you ain't getting money, then you ain't got nothing for me. Men earn and spend it on girls. Dollar bills, y'all. Pussy and cash. One deaf poet once said, pussy and cash. Hattie Gossett. Go on, girl. And so Hattie talked about how she saw these words spray painted on the walls around where she was going on the way to school when she was that age. Nobody else put them into context. So all she saw was pussy and cash. Then, like these girls today, they turn on the TV and they see Beyonce. What does she do? Spread her legs and open them and roll her hips. And these girls are supposed to be taught that they're worth something. But we show them that, we herald that, and we give them Barbies and we kiss them goodnight. What are girls made of? Sugar and spice and everything nice? Well, I'm a guy. I got a lot of things that are nice. because I have had dialogue in my life.